Linu, for joining us, and to all of our listeners, welcome to CFOs Not Talking Finance. The show where we explore the people behind the numbers. Today's guest, Linu, firstly, we're super happy to have you here. And I remember I met you at a networking event where there was one particular round of speed networking, and I just knew I had to get there. So I was on the other side of the room. You were in the front because you had just delivered a wonderful session, and you were the moderator of the panel session. And then I just, I was listening throughout, and I was like, okay, we have to have Linu on the podcast. And I ran across you, I remember, and it was a 15-minute session where we didn't get too much time. We were already talking to somebody, and I was, standing creepily behind the other person, like, please make eye contact with me. And then once you finished your conversation, you looked at me, and you were also a little taken aback. I was just like staring at you. But then I told you about the podcast, and you were really kind enough to join. So we're very, very happy to have you. You're someone who, through your profile and even what you sent us, very clearly blending strategic clarity with inner calm. That's something that we got out from what you said you're passionate about. And you're quite a rare combination when you're operating at the intersection of global energy, quite literally, and you're witnessing rapid transformation. And GE Vernova is obviously a company which is at the forefront of, like you like to call it, electrifying the world while also trying to decarbonize it. So we'll talk a lot more about that. Personally, Linu at GE, she's helped lead complex commercial negotiations, de-risk global operations, and simultaneously run process improvement programs across markets, actually not just in India. And behind all of that is a leader who very clearly believes in discipline, resilience, purpose. And these are common themes, right? When we've seen people who've left recommendations on your LinkedIn, that's a common theme that we've shared, that we've seen, where people have specifically pointed out how hardworking you are and how that translates into everything, not just maybe your work, but I'm sure it also translates to your personal life. So we would love to know more about that. And we're going to dive right in. So, Lino, first question. You've spoken about yoga and how being connected with nature helps you stay grounded. When your day involves, maybe something nasty like, complexity, maybe collections in specifically regulated countries, or in fact, even negotiating global deals, how do these practices, yoga and being connected with nature, actually help you reset?
Hey, Chitra, first of all, thanks for having me. It's such a pleasure to talk to a personality like very smiling and very forthcoming and very bubbly, very active. So, yes, the energies transpire. And to your questions, yeah, sometimes we have good days, sometimes we have bad days, sometimes stress takes over. And from the time, I guess, way back in 2020, when COVID hit us, that's when I started my journey of walking inwards, you know. And yoga has helped me a lot that way. So I practice meditation, pranayama, and I also do a lot of inversions. Inversions actually empowers me. I feel like, when I'm standing on my head or on my shoulders or on my hand, I feel that, I've achieved something. So these things helps me de-stress. And I feel stress is so much, it's up to you how much you want to really take it. The other thing that I've learned is detachment. Earlier, earlier in my careers, I used to get very emotional and passionate about things, attached too much to the projects. That's also good. But then it's always better to look at something, sitting across the fence and see how the players are playing. And it helps you think rationally. So what yoga has helped me is to grow, to become more detached to things. Uh, so certainly yoga, I would recommend to all your listeners. And if possible, if you have some limitations, Anga yoga. And of course, nobody has paid me for anything. This is just coming from my own experience. They have props. It's not very strenuous. So definitely I recommend Iyengar yoga to everyone, whoever is listening to this podcast. And trust me, yoga in any shape and form will transform you. That's one thing. And of course, I have found a new sports person in me. I joined gym. I've tried my hand on calisthenics. So all these things actually regulate your hormones, I feel, and de-stress. So you find your own sports, whichever interests you, running, walking, calisthenics, yoga, that we all, I feel, should discover that sports person inside us and pursue that. It really helps.
Plus, I think the physical and mental transformation, they kind of complement each other, right? So as you're getting physically
Absolutely.
stronger, you're also getting mentally stronger, which again
Absolutely.
fuels you to be a better athlete every day.
Absolutely. And optics matter, Chitra.
Mm,
You know, the way you look,
absolutely.
the way you stand, the way you perform and come across to the external world, it matters. And if you're physically fit, it's like 10 stars.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Another thing you mentioned where you, in your younger years, you would tend to get emotionally very attached to projects. Specifically in your industry, right? I mean, the transformation is obviously long term, but expectations from you and your team is immediate, right? So I think that's kind of also what spurred you to become so attached to certain projects. So today, how do you build that resilience within your team? And so whenever you know that results are expected from you, energy projects and everything that you're dealing with as part of leading the finance function, do you find it difficult to translate that same vigor into your team members?
Uh, mm, See, we have a mix of people in our team. I have also evolved as a leader. I mean, I'm also not perfect. So when you talk about finance function, we come across somebody who are like, gatekeepers. We always wear our compliance hat first. We get very analytical, sometimes too much, uh, that perhaps we lose focus on the reason why we have that project. So what I tell my team members are like, when we are getting into a deal or when we're having that commercial discussion, we have to be a little flexible and agile, right? We are living in a very competitive world. So if the company doesn't earn, if we don't get business, we will not be paid salaries, as simple as that, right? So while we wear our compliance hats, we have to collaborate. So the theme has always been collaboration. Collaborate with sales, understand the deal dynamics, make sure it's an executable deal. Make sure you're not building up your risk and exposures in the balance sheet. So while we do our gatekeeping work, we also need to collaborate and get closer, understand the business well. So yeah, there's been resistance. There's been people who are older folks may not like the new ideas. Change management is a concept, right? I see many people selling it as a concept. So it's not easy. And the good part in G is that change is constant. So we are so used to changes that we have become very flexible. So as a team, we always strive to collaborate. As a team, we always strive to go closer to the business. And if somebody is lacking, we have a mechanism of giving constructive feedbacks. Not at the end of the day when the performance happens, end of the year when the performance review happens. So we believe in giving constructive feedbacks. We believe in building a strong leadership pipeline. And that comes from constructive feedbacks only. So, yes, there are things which we cannot control, but within the team, we need to collaborate. And that's always been the theme.
Understood. You mentioned about having to change the, gatekeeping hat to becoming more of a business collaborator. And of course, you're a chartered accountant, so you've done your fair share of audits. You were in PwC, so you've had more of a shift or a pivot from being a core finance person to someone who's now more techno-commercial, right? And that kind of gives you a front row seat when it comes to, like you said, structuring deals, working with sales, and gives you a front row perspective in terms of customer challenges as well. Has having that core finance background kind of shaped the way you now structure deals, especially if it's a high risk or a high regulation geography where you can't take off your compliance hat and look at it purely from a business lens?
Yes, of course. So the plus point with people who are having finance background is we are very analytical, right? And we are able to pick up things which may not work in a certain deal. And you rightly said, I've taken my own risks in my career. uh, I've gone out of that comfort zone. So the leap of faith that I took was when I joined GE. I joined actually in a techno-commercial role, so which is not your conventional finance role at all. That had a flavor of drafting contracts, simulations of how gas turbine works, you know, how much a part inside the turbine lasts, or when the outage will get triggered. So it was that complex. In order to do that simulation, we had to understand, at least I had to understand how a turbine works. Now, it's a complex mechanical thing, right? And I have zero knowledge of thermodynamics or mechanicals, right? I am a chartered accountant. So that I got into the concept. I try to understand how the turbines work closely with the engineers, and that was liberating. I must say the experience that I had in that role, where I went out from the core finance area to a techno-commercial role, actually has helped me till now to understand how these complex machines work. And my respect for engineers have gone like 20 times above. How they manage in outages those difficult shop floor activities, the temperatures that they work on. So my respect for all the the operations team have actually gone up because of that particular job that I did. And yes, finance has always helped me across all these projects. I remember one of the projects that I did in consulting, which is very unique. That's very close to my heart as well. This one was with an international organization, right? Again, not a very finance centric role. It was transformation. Now, what were we transforming? We were getting jobs from across the world to India. We set up a shared service center from scratch. That was in PwC days. And we even looked for a place. We hired people, we created SOPs, we brought the job back to India. And I'm so proud that I was instrumental in creating jobs in India. So very proud to say that the shared service center is doing very well. People have grown there and they are generating revenue for the country. So that was a proud movement. And there was another project which I did, and that was very different. It was oil and gas exploration project. So went to the rig and all and understood how the oil and gas blocks work. Again, not a core finance role, but helped me understand how exploration happens, how those fields are developed, what kind of contracts these private companies enter into with the government companies to generate revenue, how the payback works, how the return on investment works. So, unless we take risks, unless we come out of our comfort zones and evolve, collaborate, again, network, get closer to the business, uh, I think we will not be able to learn. As a finance professional, I feel while we are very analytical, we have the academic knowledge, we have the core knowledge, we can structure a deal, but it has to be a win-win deal. And to understand that, we need to understand how the business works. uh, so yes, finance has helped me a lot, but taking risks and getting out of the finance, getting into techno-commercial roles helped me even further. Did I answer
Understood.
your question?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Another thing I absolutely loved was how you put a spin on the shared services part. And you said, we brought jobs back into the country. People generally look at it as a cost saving option that only now people are rebranding it into center of excellence and, global capability centers and GCC. But earlier it was always shared service. It was always, okay, back office operations. But I love the spin, the positive spin where you said you're creating jobs in India. And honestly, that's the right way to look at it also. And one more thing you mentioned was where you got a flavor of thermodynamics. Your respect for engineers got a lot more. So you've clearly gotten your hands dirty, which is why you probably are a CFO now who understands the business. And that's another trend, right? Do you think this was there in the past? Because we always used to see CFOs who would sit outside of the business, do a post-mortem, give the three deliverables in terms of your P&L balance sheet, and give a textbook MIS, but not really focusing on business partnering as much. And do you think that's a trend that's here to stay, where more and more CFOs are closer to the business than they were, say, a decade ago?
Yeah, definitely. Uh, it's situational, you can't help it. You no longer can sit back across the fence and watch the match. You have to get inside the ring and play with them. More so because, post COVID, especially pandemic, has taught us lessons for life. As finance professionals, we have to evolve. There's no other choice. We have to become flexible. We have to evolve while also balance our compliance, deliverables. Um, so I feel many people, I mean, when we go to these conferences, and at the conferences where we went, where we met, right, you'd hear a lot of finance professionals saying the same language, right? You no longer can be, reactive. You need to be very proactive. Now, for example, if I talk about one of the markets that we have, which comes under my purview, it's Bangladesh, right? Now, you see the situation that's happening in Bangladesh. Highly regulated country, elections have not happened, and they are planning to have elections. At one point in time, it was a growing market for us, a stable market, a growing market. We invested a lot. All of a sudden, things happened. We had to change our strategy, right? You no longer can sit today and say, okay, 5 years down the line, this country is going to give me this much of revenue. I'm going to sell this much, and this is the profits I'm going to make. Very uncertain. Again, something on which none of us have control. Finance, sales, operations, we do not have control on these external factors. So unless we collaborate and we come together, strategically think on how to tackle, there are certain risks that we'll have to take when you talk about markets like this, right? And that's when our compliance hats comes in, right? For example, you take the right amount of payment security, you ensure at least whatever you're selling, you get the money back, which is very important. And the money has to come out of the country. It should not get stuck there. So we started thinking holistically. We started, getting closer to the businesses proactively, rather than sitting back and doing audits and closing the books and saying, A, you cannot get this, A, you cannot do that. If we keep saying we cannot do this, we cannot do that, we will not be able to grow in markets like this. And, take the example of India itself, right? The government is more focusing on renewables. So that's when we have to strategize our products. We have to develop capabilities. We have to innovate. Think very creatively on how to navigate the situation, also bring in profitability and ensure cash. You must have read in newspapers recently, some of the power plants even gone bankrupt, right? They're stranded. There's lack of gas. And to add to it, the Trump drama that has begun, that's only going to make things worse. The wars that's happening, it's complete disruption of supply chain. The tariffs that's getting imposed is going to increase your cost of production. How do you navigate? How do you maneuver? That's what we need to strategically think, work very closely with the commercial team to come out with creative ideas. So collaboration, again, is the thing. No option. And be more proactive rather than being reactive.
Yes, and I think another thing you mentioned earlier was when you were at a different division at GE, and now you're at gas power, and you're leading that market. But in general, has there been any particular project that you are particularly proud of, where your lean mindset in terms of leading multiple kaizens to identify waste, improve processes. Has there been a particular project where collectively you and the team were very proud of having unlocked value, not just in terms of maybe cost savings, but also something a little more strategic?
Yeah, so GE has given me a lot of opportunities. A great company to work for, given me growth, recognition. I owe a lot to GE. Uh, and they give us the best part is that, the ideas that you have actually can be translated into reality. For instance, we try to localize a certain sub product which was manufactured outside India. We have a multimodal facility in Pune. So we try to localize some of the products and sell to a PSU in India. It was one of the first things, it was the first time that this business was localizing a product. A lot of efforts from supply chain, a lot of efforts from sales and operations. The project was successful. So I'm very proud of that one. Wherein, again, the theme here, there's a purpose attached to it. The purpose is, while we're all working, right? We are all Indians as well. So I feel really proud when we bring back jobs to our country, where the production capabilities that we are developing, new products that we are developing, we're able to generate jobs. So this one was one of a classic example wherein even a small component which was localized in India can actually contribute a lot to your growth story. And again, coming back to the tariff system, unless we are self-reliant and we try to grow ourselves, sell in the local market, we will not be able to sustain all these things that's happening. And I guess that's what our Prime Minister is also aiming at. So yes, that was one of the project, Chitra, I'm very proud of. The other thing is the compliance projects that we take up. So we ran a lot of kaizens. And that's a Japanese concept, right? So we understood how they do it first, and understanding the value chain and the processes, and then identifying waste and trying to remove those waste, which has generated a lot of, which has saved a lot of time for the team. And if you quantify time, then of course we have saved a lot of dollars also behind that. And the other thing is about cash compliance. So when I joined this business, we were sitting at huge past dues. That has all gone. I think 90% of it got reduced. So we targeted each segment separately because each overdue had a peculiar set of problems. Understood the problem, worked on solutions. Either we got it or we created provisions, but we had a way out, or we went legal even. So that reduction and recovery was something I'm still proud of.
And I think the example you gave about manufacturing, or rather getting that subcomponent get manufactured in India, kind of is a perfect example of your philosophy of profitability and bottom line being very important, but a sense of purpose also that is driving that ideology. And I know you're passionate about empowering the next gen, and talent, and empowering women leaders. What is your general take on how you go about doing that?
Um, uh, Again, I don't have a standard, take for that because each person is different. And if I talk about myself, it's been a long journey. I've been working for 25 years now, and at some point in time,
You don't look it.
no, that's a compliment. Thank you so much. So there were times where I stepped back because there were priorities at home. My children were growing up, and I had to take that step back, slow down a bit. Um, I, I agree to a certain extent that women are multitaskers, but I feel sometimes it can be too overwhelming and very tiring if you are trying to target multiple things. So there were times where I slowed down. There were times when I was very aggressive. But yes, to all women leaders, if anybody is listening, I feel there's no standard answers or standard solutions which can be sold. It all depends on your priorities. And there's nothing wrong in thinking aggressively about your career. Or if you want to just take a step back and stay at home, rejuvenate and come back. For me, I've been, when I am aggressive about my career, during those phases, I outsource everything. Yeah. Whether it's cooking, whether it's cleaning, whether it's studies or uh, whatever. I simply outsource. Okay, everything comes with a cost. There are no free lunches. Outsourcing means you'll have to shell out money. It's okay. You're earning money, you can shell it out. So there were times when I would outsource everything, focus on my career, focus on my job, and give quality time, right? I try now to feel guilty about it uh, with this quality time tag. But yeah, that's a journey. And you can't help it, right? Whatever feelings comes, you have to live with it. And when I took a step back, I was at peace. I stayed at home when I was expecting my second baby. And then I resumed work in 7 months' time. Okay, when I resumed work, I was not at par with my colleagues and those who were already earning and those who were already successful. But then it's a journey, right? Over the period of time, I could catch up. So there's nothing wrong and right. That's what I learned in my journey. It's all about priorities and just chill. Life is short.
Very, very sage advice. Because some of us, tend to get excessively competitive. So I think dealing with the fact that you took a step back, which was a choice, and then coming back to see that okay, others have gone ahead, which is a natural progression. But again, that's probably difficult to navigate. I think kudos to you that you said you would chill throughout. I mean, probably then you weren't. Now in hindsight, you realize that you that was the better path to follow. But as someone who's literally operating in a space that's powering the world's future, when you look ahead and look at what impact you want to leave, not just as a finance leader and someone who's a CFO, but more of a purpose driven individual, what do you hope your biggest impact is going to be, not necessarily just within GE but overall in your ecosystem?
So we have, training programs and we hire FMPs from campus. At one point in time, I was a training program leader for India, right? And what I tell my people, my the people who are training under me or my team is like, um, first of all, take care of yourself, right? Your mental wellness is very important for you to be more productive, right? So health is prime when it comes to team, right? That's non-negotiable. And then be a little flexible, try to collaborate and don't make mistakes, which I have done. So try to evolve by kind of staying a bit detached to your projects and, rationally thinking about it. So I want to leave an impression of being a very practical or being a very rational leader, uh, empathetic. Uh, People should know me as someone who uh, sympathizes and who also is a hard taskmaster and finishes the projects on time. So probably that's what I want to leave my impression like. And perhaps others learn from the mistakes that I've done. I always keep sharing things with my team as well that this is what I've done and this is what I've learned in life. And at least in GE, we have this focus of building next gen pipeline. We want when we leave the company, we want the company to be in safe hands. So grooming is part of our deliverables. We have to groom the next gen leaders. And the way we behave, the way we conduct ourselves is what they are seeing on a day-to-day basis. So what you are asking is very pertinent. What do you want people to know about? What do you want people to talk about you when you leave the organization? So that impression that you leave And that influence that you are going to create on these individuals are very important. And I hope they remember me as a good team player, as someone who's always been into continuous learning. Learning should never stagnate. Someone who is adventurous and experimental, but at the same time doesn't compromise on compliance. Because if we do that, then countries like, at least I can talk about India and Bangladesh, if we do not pay attention to compliances, we'll be in deep trouble. So that's what I want my team to remember. Yeah.
I'll certainly remember you as someone who is very easy to have a wonderful conversation with. And thank you for answering all of our questions. But now it's time for a little silly rapid fire or quick fire. Don't
Oh,
think too much, just go with your first instinct. Ideally, the rule is either one word or very short answers. So, the first is essentially, what is your go-to pose, yoga pose for mental clarity?
headstand.
Stand, okay. And mountains or beaches or a deep green forest where you are just walking and it's an ambling walk and there's no agenda.
I think all of three, or perhaps beaches plus greenery around. Yeah. I like clicking pictures of wildlife and birds and sceneries. Yeah. So perhaps beaches and forest.
Nice. And the last photo on your phone, is it something related to work or is it something very personal?
I think I took a selfie.
Okay, that's nice. What's on your morning playlist? So what's a song that either you listen to on your way to work or something that really helps you kickstart your morning?
It's Shiv. I'm a very spiritual person, so I listen to Shiv songs related to Shiva.
Mm.
So maybe it can be Shiv Stotram or something like that, but very religious.
Nice. That gets
Yeah.
you in the zone and you're calmer
Yeah,
and
yeah. Calms my mind, um, helps me think,
nice.
introspection.
Do you
Yeah.
prefer a daily, stand-up call at 9 a.m. or do you not? Because I know a lot of leaders who do not like that. They just do it because they have to attend it, but they prefer, giving their teams a little more time till noon to probably catch up with tasks. What about you?
Yeah, so Monday morning we do have a catch-up call.
Mhm.
So the week begins with a good catch-up call so that we have enough time to work on the tasks. Yeah, so I do have that.
Understood. Another one, what's tougher, building a lean process from scratch, especially if it's an empty slate, or change management and, changing a legacy mindset?
I think change management, I guess a lot of companies sell this as, I think I mentioned it earlier also,
Yeah.
they sell it as a product. And I want to give an instance, like I was deputed in a project where there were like a lot of senior leaders there. And uh, this change management was something which I learned there on the ground. There was so much of resistance, so much of negativity, there was so much of tension that every time you land up in the office, they are like, just get out of here, because, and rightly so, perhaps they feared that something is coming by or they may lose their job, they're feeling insecure, which is fine. But the person who's actually receiving, at the receiving end, we feel a bit nervous. So definitely change management is very difficult because there is emotions, there is human angle and complexities and reactions and actions. So a lot of them, you can build a process from scratch, understand lean, try to translate it down the line, but to change, yeah, takes a bit of more efforts.
Understood. And if you're in the middle of a meeting and you want to brainstorm, what's your go-to? Just a whiteboard with a marker, or do you prefer your laptop with a spreadsheet?
I think wide road with a marker.
Nice.
It's like going back to your school days, and then all of us participate, and then you can note it down, and then perhaps you can translate it into PPT, Excel, whatever. But I love writing on whiteboards.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something I think muscle memory because when you write, somehow you are more articulate and you can frame thoughts better than when you have to type.
Correct. I agree with
Uh,
you.
Wonderful.
Looks like that's
And
your go-to.
yes,
Uh,
yes, absolutely. I make nonsensical notes, and it's very difficult to decipher, but I can make perfect sense of it.
yeah, I agree.
And okay, the final question is, what do you think the next gen of leaders, men, women, whoever, what is one thing that they should unlearn?
They should unlearn. That's a tough one. Maybe I can say what they should learn. I think they should be more agile and flexible. What they should unlearn, and I mean, nothing against the Gen Z, but we keep interviewing people, and I feel they're very relaxed. I mean, you don't have to take stress, I agree, but then you have to get a little bit serious about your career and your uh, job deliverables, right? And may not apply across the board, but I've seen kids taking things very casual. Yeah, it's your career. Yeah, I mean, I'm coming from a conservative mindset, perhaps, but you will really have to put in a lot of effort. So unlearn that easygoing attitude as far as career is concerned. I mean, and have those uh, moments of happiness, pursue your sports, do whatever you want to do when you have free time. Stress on work-life balance also. Nothing wrong with it. But take your career seriously and don't just be very easygoing. It's what I would like to request
And that's
to
very
Gen Z.
politically, very politically correct way of telling that, the Gen Zs really need to buck up because that's I think our experience across the board. People we speak to, there isn't the same sort of ambition, I think, or career
There's no
related.
drive, perhaps.
Yeah.
Uh, if I speak about myself, I started from scratch, right? I wanted to build my career. I wanted to have money. I wanted to have saving. Maybe most of them are coming from very strong backgrounds. And they feel, there's the drive is not there.
Mm.
Uh, it doesn't apply to everyone across the board. Again, sorry if I hurt any feelings. But yeah, most of them, I feel the drive isn't there.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. And overall, I love the whole rapid fire session. I think we got like a highlight reel of everything that powers Linu Nair outside of the boardroom as well. So this was awesome. Thank you so much, Lino, for joining us. I think we had a wonderful conversation with you across, got a lot of insights in what it means to, work in a very heavily regulated market. You spoke a lot about GE, your personal goals, things that drive you. So I had a wonderful time. I hope you had a good time chatting with
Of
us.
course, I've had a nice time, Chitra.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Linu. And if to our listeners, if this episode left you inspired, please take a moment to follow or subscribe to CFOs Not Talking Finance. And you could share it with anybody who is, forging their own leadership path, whether or not they're, in the world of finance or outside of it. We're not picky. So thank you so much. Thanks, Linu.
Thank you, Chitra.